Hi everybody, and thank you very much for joining me for the Adespresso January webinar. As you can probably see on the screen, today we're going to be covering how to get the most out of Facebook Business Manager in 2021. We've run this webinar in previous years and it's always the most popular topic, probably because if you set your business manager up correctly, you get a really good foundation in which to succeed with your Facebook ads. So just before we dive into this, a little bit of housekeeping as always. We are recording this call. There'll be quite a lot of information to take in, so don't worry about taking too many notes. We'll send this to everybody who registered by email. Also, if for any reason you don't get that email, you can just jump into adespresso.com/webinars, and we always put the replays there within 24 hours, usually less of the live session ending there. If you've got any questions, this is going to be an interactive session. My colleague Tori is monitoring chat for any technical issues, and then we're going to leave time at the end for any Q&A there. Also, if you want to put in the chat box there, give it a test, let us know where you're joining us from. I can see Caitlin is joining us from Lexington, Kentucky. Got Andres is joining us from Spain, but he's actually Hungarian. Ricardo says hi. Jim is joining us from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Bonnie from California. Keith from Bristol. As you can probably tell, I'm broadcasting from the UK today as well. So many people we've got. This is our most subscribed webinar. Seems to be a real hot topic. So thank you everybody for your messages. Really appreciate that. But yeah, put any questions there. We'll monitor those as we go along. So a tiny bit about myself. I'm not going to dwell on myself, but just so you know, I've got the credibility to deliver today's training. I'm Paul. I'm the head of training and education here at Adespresso, which is a subsidiary of Hootsuite. If you've got any questions afterwards, if we don't get to them in the Q&A or you watch a replay, you can email me, paul@adespresso.com. So my kind of qualifications, if you like, for running business manager training today is I've actually audited over 1,000 ad accounts. Very privileged to be able to do this. Not very many people outside of Facebook themselves have looked at so many ad accounts from so many industries across the globe there. Also, I'd like to keep up to date with ads by spending a couple of $1 million a year on ads for a select number of clients. I also do coaching. I love doing one-to-one strategy calls, especially like doing those for small, medium businesses and help them grow the size of their business, but also coach enterprise level businesses, some with billions of dollars in revenue. So I hope you can see that I'm working with ads all day long. And so that means I'm working with Ads Manager all day long and can give you some proper tips today, not just theory, going to give you some actual practice. So what are we going to cover today? We're going to go through 7 topics. We're going to ease ourselves in with an intro onto what Facebook Business Manager is. Then hopefully I'll convince you why you need to be using it. Then we'll go through the setup. That's going to be the crucial part. Then once you've set everything up, we'll look at the different roles for your employees. If we've got any agencies joining us, then I think you'll find section 5 extremely useful. Definitely tune in for that. Also, if you're a brand that's working with agencies, we'll show you how the agency setup should be doing it correctly to make sure as a brand you're protected. Security and auditing, really hot topic. I know a lot of people are getting ad accounts randomly disabled. So we'll look at some ways of minimizing the chances of that happening to you. And then we'll tie up some loose ends at the end with what I call a rapid fire round there. But just before we get into this, I'd like to get a kind of snapshot on what your knowledge is there. So we're just going to launch a little poll here. And what we're going to be doing with the poll is just want to know what your experience is with Business Manager. Have you used it? Like first option there is no, you haven't used it at all. Yes, you use it, but you're just not confident with it. Or yes, you use it and you feel fairly confident with it there. So quite a lot of responses coming in. We'll just let that run for about another 10 or 15 seconds. That's just going to help us kind of, pitch, decide how much depth we give to each topic today. Okay, so we've got lots of answers, so let's just close this poll. And I'm going to share the results with you now. So what we can see is that there's just a handful of you aren't using Business Manager. I was quite surprised when I ran this before. A lot of people weren't using it. So it's really good that you're now familiar with it. But quite understandably, a lot of you are using it, but just not really confident, which is why we're running today's training. Then we've got a small number that are confident with it, and hopefully you'll find some of the more advanced tips useful there. So thank you for participating there. So we'll get into today's training now. And first of all, we're going to level set everybody by covering what Business Manager actually is. A very quick definition. This is from Facebook themselves. They say it's a way of managing everything in one place to do with Facebook. And when we talk about Facebook, remember that's the Facebook family of apps. So of course you've got standard Facebook. You've also got Messenger, Instagram, and WhatsApp that are going to be applicable here. Now we can unpack this a bit more, go into a bit more detail. Is that Business Manager serves as a one-stop shop for advertisers, agencies, publishers, Facebook marketing partners, basically anybody that's doing business on Facebook. And it allows you to manage your assets, and we'll look later at what those assets are, but it also means that you can share them both internally with your team and also externally with partners there. So it's that great one-stop shop that's going to put everything in one place and allow you to share. Now, why is this important? I think it's worthwhile remembering that Facebook has been mainstream for well over 10 years now. I think I've had a Facebook account for since something like 2007. Now, back in the day when businesses first started on Facebook, I think Facebook business pages came out about 2009, 2010. Your general setup would be you'd have one business page, maybe a social media manager, and that was about it. So there wasn't really any need for a business manager because you had a really simple setup. There also weren't many tools. You basically just had your Facebook page, then you might have added an ad account, and that was about it. And that's not the case anymore. Things have really moved on. Facebook for business has got a lot more complex. There's two ways for this. One is the number of tools, and then secondly, the number of employees and agencies that you're working with. So we'll dig into this a little bit more. Is when we talk about Business Manager, when we look at the angle of it from tools, there's actually 26 tools if I'm counting correctly. And we're not going to dwell on these, but I'll give you a quick overview. We've got tools to manage your business, to do with account quality, brand safety, your payment and billing, settings, and so on. Some are more specialist, like if you've got shops, you can manage those locations there. You've then got a whole suite of advertising tools. You've got some analysis when you've been running your experiment. You've got things like Facebook analytics there as well. Then you can engage customers, obviously, on your Facebook pages. And then there's some specialist tools if you're running e-commerce. These integrate very well with platforms like Shopify, where you could be using their Commerce Manager. So we can see that we can't just rely on our Facebook page. We've got all these different tools. And that's one of the reasons that we've got Facebook Business Manager. Now, the other way that we can look at it, the other angle we can approach Business Manager from, is it contains all your assets. And so what I mean by assets, this is something that was picked up last time I ran this webinar. The common question was, hey, Paul, what do I mean by assets? And really, this is anything for business. So it can be people, that's your employees, it can be agencies and partners, it's your Facebook pages, your ad accounts, it could be iPhone and Android apps. If you're advertising on Facebook to get app installs, your Instagram accounts, WhatsApp accounts, your product catalogs if you're doing e-commerce, Facebook pixels if you're tracking the results of your ads on websites, offline event sets if you're sending data from your CRM to Facebook, and so on. You can see that we need everything in one place. Now, back in the day, if you just had a Facebook page and one or two employees and maybe an Instagram account, yeah, you could just share everything directly from the page or the Instagram profile. Now we've got so many things, you're just going to get in a complete pickle if they're all over the place. You need this one central hub, i.e. Business Manager, that just acts as a container, acts as a wrapper for everything. When I was researching this webinar, I thought I'd dive into a couple of real examples to kind of show you these business setups. Now, these are businesses that I work on, and they're not super large businesses. They're by no means enterprise businesses. They're your kind of classic small to medium business there. So business one here, they've got 3 websites for different regions. I think Australia, US, and Europe. Each of those regional websites has got a different ad account. They've got pixels for those, plus a couple of extras for some projects they're working on, Facebook page, Instagram, the product catalogs to create the product feeds for each of those websites. Got a couple of owners of the businesses, 10 employees in there, finance department, a couple of ad agencies, and so on. So even these kind of small to medium-sized businesses, before you know it, when you actually go in and add everything up, you've got a lot of moving parts there, which is why we need that central hub and be able to share all our assets. Another quick example, second business, US based, so they just have one website. They've got 4 ad accounts, an iPhone app, their Facebook tracking pixel, their page, Instagram account, product catalog, owners, employees, finance, 2 agencies just working on ads and 1 working on social media there. So different people in the business are going to need different assets. Like your finance department need access to billing, but they don't need access to your Facebook page. The ad agencies need access to your ad account, but not necessarily to your Facebook page itself, and certainly not to Instagram. Your social media agency don't need access to product catalogs and ad accounts, but they're going to need access to your pages and so on. So to join all that together in one big web, that's why we need Business Manager there. So hopefully that gives you a nice high-level overview of what Business Manager is.
Hey, Paul, I'm going to stop you for 1 second. I see a couple of people on the call mentioning that they're having some audio issues. We have a ton of people on the call today, almost 500 of you. So for anyone who's having some audio issues, a couple of steps would be to close out any other programs that you might be using just to help with that internet bandwidth. And secondly, calling in using a phone as well. Sometimes that'll solve some of your sound issues just using that.
Thank you, Toya. Apologies if anybody's getting any sound issues. We've also got the replay as well, which saying we'll put on the website adespresso.com in the webinar section. We also have a YouTube channel. You can just search for Adespresso there. So apologies if there's any bandwidth limitations there. But hopefully in that first section, that's covered like a high-level intro of what Business Manager is. Then I want to kind of convince you briefly in this section why you should be using it. First reason is that you just have to. If you want to be running a Facebook business these days, an ad account, that you'll get a lot of limitations if you're not using it. For example, custom audiences, if they're from a data file like your email list, you have to be in Business Manager. I got an email from Facebook today saying to get ready for the iOS 14 privacy changes, you need to verify your domains. You have to be in Business Manager to do that. So, first of all, you've just got to be using it. Second thing is, this is like a typical message I've got from an agency. They were getting a bit confused with their staff being added directly to assets like Facebook pages, and they're saying, hey, we need a better way of centralizing all these assets and employees. And a way of doing that there is to use Business Manager. Third reason is you'll just get better support from Facebook. You want to go make the change now, not when you have an issue that's mission critical, because if you jump on chat with Facebook, the first thing they'll say is, are you using Business Manager? If not, they'll probably say, right, you need to go and swap to it. And you don't want to be doing that when you've got a big issue. So preempt it by swapping as soon as you can. Similar to that, being able to preempt these situations there is that you want to be setting up Business Manager from the start, not when, as you saw in these examples, you've got more ad accounts, more pixels, more catalogs, and it just gets painful to do. So if you set up on day one or the next best time is now, then that's really going to help you. Then the kind of fifth reason here is it's a lot more secure. Now we're going to be covering this later in the webinar in the security and auditing section. I think that's section 6 towards the end of this webinar. But it's just a lot more secure, you'll see in that section there. We don't want to get our ad accounts hacked and then unscrupulous advertisers go and spend our ad spend. That's not good. So we need that maximum security there. And then there's some extra goodies. We saw there's 26 tools there. Some of those only available in Business Manager, so it's going to help you there if you use BM. So hopefully that gives you an idea of why you should be using it. We've seen what Business Manager is, and if you are convinced, then it's time to move on to how we set up Business Manager, which is what we're going to be covering in this section. So first thing I recommend doing here is just go to business.facebook.com. You might want to go and type this into a browser, just open a new tab here. And the reason I say that is you might be surprised and think, okay, I'm not using Business Manager, I've never used it, but you might actually find that you've got a Business Manager already. The reason is you might have found that you set up a Facebook page a couple of years ago and actually at the same time Facebook set up a business manager, or maybe you worked with another employee in the company or something, set things up. So most of the times when I onboard new clients, we go to business.facebook.com, we actually find something there. So first thing is find out what you've got there. You can have access to multiple business managers. Like in this case, you can see I've got one for the main Adespresso assets like our Facebook and Instagram account and ad account, but also we do some agency services. We've got a second one there to connect up to clients. So you might have more than one business manager, but yes, you might already have something here. Now, if you don't have anything at all, just use the blue Create Business button, and then very, very simple pop-up. Couldn't be easier. You put in the name of the business that you want to call it, put in your name, and then a business email address. Remember, you're going to get all the notifications here. So you want to be able to go and send or get those notifications to your business inbox there. So once you've set that up, that's literally a 30-second job to set up your business manager. We can start moving around in there, and everything really comes from these 9 dots. This little grid here, there's always in the top left when you're in Business Manager. Whatever your screen you're in, you should be able to see those 9 dots. You click on that, and then you get this kind of menu pop up. And what you get at the top is your shortcuts. They'll be based on previously used tools, so it'd be different for everybody. But you can then just scroll down and you get those 26 tools. So the way to start with Business Manager setup, go to the 9 dots and go to Business Settings, which is either in Shortcuts or you scroll down and you'll get to that there. Then Facebook, again, make it really easy to set up, is that in Business Settings, you get this left-hand menu, go to the bottom, click on Setup Guide, and it will walk you through the steps there. Really, really simple. So we'll just kind of show you a couple of the key steps that you would do. The first thing you probably want to do is add an ad account, and there's 3 options. The first is claim an ad account. I think this is a bit confusing, the term. I'd rather call it import. But if you've already been using an ad account as been connected to your personal profile, you need to pull that into Business Manager to use it. So this is an import. Just bear in mind, this is a one-time import. Once it's in, you can't get it out to your personal profile again. Shouldn't be an issue. Can't see any problems with that, but just make sure that you are fully confident with that you're going to be committed to Business Manager before you import. Request access, we'll cover this in step 5 for agencies, how you get access to a client account, and create a new ad account. Fairly straightforward. It'll walk you through how to create that ad account if you're brand new to advertising. Same with pages. Chances are you've already got a page and it's just connected to your personal account, so you can import that, or you can request access, and again, we'll cover that later, or you can create a new page. And then, of course, we need some people. So we can add a business admin or we can add an employee. And don't worry, the next section, we're going to be taking a deep dive into there. We can follow those steps, and by that stage, you should have ad accounts, employees, Facebook pages, and you're going to be set on most of the things that you need. At least you've got the basic Business Manager set up there within a few minutes. Now, of course, what we can also do, just as a reminder, once you've kind of done the basic setup and had a look around, go back into Business Manager settings again for that 9 dots, go into settings, but then you can add more stuff later. So this is going into more of the fine details, that if you've got if you need a new Facebook pixel, then click on that from the left-hand menu and add, and Facebook will walk you through how to do that. We have got a full webinar on pixels. Again, go to our website, adespresso.com, or our YouTube channel, just search for Adespresso. Same with anything else that you need to add later once you've done that first basic setup. But I understand that it's not the most user-friendly UI. People get a bit intimidated, but if you just go through the basic setup and use that setup guide very, very quickly to get up and running there. So that's the end of section 3. We're kind of halfway through this webinar already, so thank you for sticking with me so far. So far we've covered what Business Manager is, why you should be using it, and just kind of setup 101. And now we're going to go into a bit more detail with those employees. We're going to be looking at the different roles in Business Manager. And the reason why this is important that we spend a section on this is that people get very confused that under users, from that left-hand menu in the settings, you've got people and you've got partners. And I get asked a lot, what's the difference between these? So people, these are people that work in your business or organization. So what they are is generally employees. As you can see, once you go and click on people, you then get an option to go and give people employee access. So what happens is there'll be people in your organization, and then you invite them into Business Manager, and then from there you can divvy up the tools. Like I covered earlier, for a finance person, you can just give them access to billing. For a social media manager, you could give them access to your Facebook pages and Instagram account and maybe WhatsApp. And then an advertiser, maybe they just need access to your ad account, but maybe not to Instagram. So we get the person in there first, and then we can assign assets to them later. Admins on your account is the second option. Now, these have full control over your Business Manager. So these are the people, they don't need to be necessarily involved actively every day in your business, although you'll want somebody that's going to be hands-on because they're going to be assigning and creating assets. But your backup admins, they don't necessarily need to be working on the business every day, but preferably they'd be business owners. If you're in a large corporation and that's not possible, then you want senior staff or somebody that's not going to leave. I probably get an email probably once every week, maybe every 2 weeks, where a corporation, the person that was running their Business Manager left and they didn't have any other admins, and then they've lost access to the whole Facebook business empire there. It's so easy to do, so we need those extra admins, and we don't want people that are just going to be going in and out of the business. Make sure they're going to be there to stay, i.e. business owners. If you're like a small business, a 1 or 2 person business, and you don't have those extra employees to add as admins, then you could add a relative, just somebody you trust that you can say, right, we can use those as a backup to access Business Manager if needed. Really, really good tip here is that you are connecting to personal profiles that should be a genuine personal profile, i.e. the one that you've probably been using for 10 years, has got your proper profile picture and your name on there. The reason for this is occasionally Facebook can flag users when they access Business Manager, and they'll ask you to verify your ID. You've actually got to upload your driving license, passport. If you're using a fake name and a fake picture, you're not going to regain access. The other reason as well is, if you set up Business Manager and then you get your employees to set up these fake accounts and there's no activity on those personal profiles, Facebook's going to get suspicious. It's going to use algorithms and think, hey, there's all these new users with brand new accounts. They've never posted anything. They haven't got a profile picture. They've got a strange name. There's something fraudulent going on in this Business Manager. I'm going to disable it. So use your genuine profiles. I see this happen a lot where businesses just have these problems where they're trying to create these extra profiles, and there's no need to, because the whole idea of Business Manager is it puts this silo from your business assets to your personal profile. So yes, you do log on to Facebook using your personal profile, but as soon as you go into Business Manager, you've got that wall there. People then can't see your personal information there on any of the business assets. This is why we want to be using Business Manager and not being connecting ad accounts and Facebook pages and so on to our personal profiles. It creates that really good divide between business and pleasure. So always use your genuine profiles there. Then the other option, apart from users, is we have this option of partners. And a partner is any agency outside of your business there. So obviously users, so the people are employees, and partners are the outside agencies that you might be collaborating with. It really helps when you're working with larger agencies, like when you're just working with a 1-person agency, not a huge amount of difference, but imagine you working with an agency with 10 staff working on your brand account. Then if you go and grant the access to that agency, they can then, again, divide them up internally. They can say, right, our graphic designer needs access to your files, and the social media manager that's working on your account needs access to this, and the paid social person has access to the ad account, and so on. So really cuts down the hassle for you if you can grant access to the agency and they sort it out internally there. Final option you might have seen, we won't dwell on this, system users. These aren't humans, these are bots. The bots are taking over. Especially I've seen it with Shopify, that they have certain bots that plug in as a user and they can make API calls to your assets. So we're not going to touch on that anymore there. So you might be thinking, how do we add those users and add assets to those users? So what we do, again, use the 9 dots, go into business settings and choose it from the left-hand side here. Click on people if it's an employee you're adding, and then click on add, and you add that person, and that will send them an invite. They can accept that invite, and then they're into your business manager. And then you click on add assets. So it's very straightforward there once you've added that person. And what happens when you click this button? We'll show you what it looks like next. So what happens then is you get a pop-up with 3 columns. So you just work left to right. If you decide what the asset type is, so like ad account, you then find the name of the ad account. For privacy, I've blanked some out here, but I've like left one ad account in, so you just check on that. And then you decide the level of access that you give them there. And then you could repeat that. So like, okay, I want to give them access to my pixels. I'd click on the pixel on the left-hand side, and then in the middle, choose the actual pixel name. And then I choose the level of access on the right. And you just carry on with that for all the assets that you've got here. Pretty straightforward when you're granting permissions. Do you want them to, like in this example of ad accounts, do you want it to merge campaigns or just be an analyst, just view performance? Or do you want them to be a full admin there? Same here for pages, is that we can choose pages from the left-hand menu, choose what page to add them to, then are they a full admin, or can they just see insights, or can they be an editor? There's a couple of extra options here, but very, very simple to decide what level of access. Obviously, for security reasons, you're best off not giving them full access unless there's a particular reason that they need that there. Really, you should have several admins for the business manager that you trust implicitly, and then when you add those employees and partners, just give them the granular permissions that they need there. So hopefully in the last couple of sections here, you can see how to set up your business manager and to use that setup guide to add in your ad accounts, your pages, and then in business manager settings, you can add in other things like pixels, catalogs, Instagram accounts, and so on. And then from there, we've just covered how to add in your employees, how to set up some admins, and how to go and assign access to partners, which the partners then get into their business manager and then assign internally. So if you're running a business, a brand, and you're not working with agencies, you can probably go and skip just the next section for the next 5-10 minutes, go make yourself a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. But if you are working with agencies, or especially if you're an agency yourself, I think this section is going to be very useful. It's something that I've covered time and time again when consulting for agencies and brands. So this is going to cover for an agency how you should set up your what your business manager structure should be. And Facebook are very, very clear on this. So this I've got here on the screen is from the Facebook Blueprint course, which I'll link to at the end of this webinar. It says that if you're a partner or an agency to that brand, you shouldn't create the assets for the brand themselves. So within your agency business manager, you don't create the brand Facebook page or the brand ad account or the brand pixel. Because if you do that, it's going to be very difficult for the client to own those access and own those assets. That you can't transfer assets between business managers. You can share them, so you could set up a page and then share that between business managers, but you can't then go and swap it from one to the other. Facebook isn't a platform we own. It's not like owning your own website where you're in full control. We've got to do things Facebook's way. So we've got to do it right from the start. If you're working with a brand, they should set up their own business manager. They then set up all the assets, and then they will give you access into your business manager there. Now, I know what you're thinking here, like, you've spoken to the brand on a call, you're having an onboarding call, and they're like, hey, this is a lot of hassle. I just don't understand business manager. Please go and set up the assets for me. I would really resist that. Just screen share, jump on a call, spend that extra half an hour getting it right, because that's going to help you in 2, 3, 4 years time. If you don't have the right foundations and you're building on that real shaky ground, that will really come back to bite you as an agency later on. I've got some reasons for this here. I work with a lot of agencies, and it's just so important to get this right. So the first reason why the brand or the business should set up their own business manager and then their own assets in it is it's ethical. They should own everything. It's theirs. As an agency, you should never own somebody else's business. So set it up properly. And you probably think at this stage as an agency, hey, actually, if I own the business assets for this brand, that's really good. They can't ever leave me. And yes, that does sound really tempting, but it does mean that when they want to leave eventually, it does get messy. It means they'll get the lawyers involved and say, hey, you own our Facebook page. We're going to take you to court, or we're going to see you, or it just gets messy. If they own the assets and they're in their own business manager, we avoid any of that. We just cut out all that nonsense, and we have a stress-free life. So yes, it means you've got to perform. You haven't got a hold over the client. That's how we should be doing things. We should be stepping up and being a good, high-performing ethical agency. Something else really important is a lot of agencies like to bill for the client spend, either because the client goes, hey, this is a lot of hassle, having to put my credit card and that in, can you handle it? So that's one reason. Sometimes the agency likes it because they put a markup and inflate the ad spend and hide the results from the client. Again, it's very tempting to do that, like inflate the results and be in control of the ad account. But think about when it goes wrong. I've seen a very well-known brand with probably several hundred stores in the UK. They racked up a 6-figure ad spend before Christmas in that kind of key trading period. They then went bust just after Christmas and left their agency liable for the ad spend. So you really want to avoid that. I know it's very tempting, but instead, let's go and perform on our results. And what I do is, if I'm ever working with a client, they own their ad account, they pay their ad spend. It's very, very simple, very stress-free. There's no business risk there as an agency. Final tip here, why you need the clients to own their own business manager. It's, Facebook does some random things sometimes, like it will go and disable an ad account or sometimes even a business manager. Now, if you're an agency and you own, if you're working with 10 brands and you own all their assets and your business manager gets disabled for whatever reason, or you just lose access, then that's it. Your agency's toast. You've got 10 clients suing you. You can't run any ads for them. You've lost everything. That's a huge risk. Why go and let that happen to you? If we flip it around and each brand has got their own business manager and they own their own assets, then worst case that happens is if their business manager or their ad account gets banned, yeah, that client goes down, but we keep working with our other 9 clients or however many that we've got. They're also not going to be shouting down the phone at you, threatening to sue you because you've got all their assets banned. So really we can see that as an agency, we want to do things right. It's more ethical, it's stress-free. Don't be liable for ad spend. Don't be liable for assets getting disabled or lost or banned or whatever happens to them. So yes, it does mean that there's nowhere to hide. The client sees all the performance because they own everything and there's no tie-in to us. But this is how we build a long-term sustainable agency. It's the proper way of doing things there. So I really urge you to do that. Also, as a brand, if you get an agency that's trying to do things the wrong way, please go and kick back. Yes, I know business managers is a headache, but it's worth it in the long term there. So now I've convinced you why we need to work this way as an agency. How do we go and add the assets from our partner, from that brand, from that business? And there's 3 ways that we can do this. Business Manager loves duplications. It means they can confuse the UI by adding a lot more buttons, but there's 3 ways we can get access to assets. The first way is in Business Manager settings on that left-hand menu. Choose the asset we want access to. We then, so we might click on, say, ad accounts in this example. We then click on add and we would then request access to the ad account as we saw earlier on. So that's the first way. We can request access asset by asset. And what will happen when we click on this option to request an asset is Facebook will say, what's the ad account ID? Or if it's like a Facebook page, it says, what's the name or the URL? So we type that in, that sends a request to the client. I was actually doing that this morning just before this webinar. Of course, you need to know what the ID or what the page name is. That's one drawback if you don't have that. So once you send that request, the client can go into their request section if they can't find an email in their business manager settings, and they'll see what they've received, and they can do that there. I will say this method is a bit flaky. A lot of the times the requests don't always appear. So I actually prefer to do a method we'll see a bit later, which is that the client actually grants you access rather than you requesting access. But certainly this is one way of doing it. The second way is, as I said, there's some duplication here, is instead of requesting access to an individual asset, we request access to the partner. So what we do in those business manager settings is we go to the partner section, choose our partner. If we haven't already got them there, we go and click on the add button and we say, hey, can you add us as a partner? And then what we then do is ask the partner to share their assets with us. And what happens then is we put in, saying if we haven't already got a relationship with them, is we put in their details and then say, hey, can we get access to your business manager? And then once you've got access, when we ask to share assets, is we can say, right, from this left-hand menu, what assets do I need? So I need a page, and these are the permissions that I need. And then I need an ad account, and maybe I've got 1 or 2 ad accounts I need to add, what permission levels, and so on there. So this is the second way, is I'm saying, right, as a partner, these are what I want you to share, rather than the first way was saying, these are the individual assets there. There's certainly a lot of duplications. There's no right or wrong way of doing this there. And then once you get access to those assets, remember that they will sit inside your business manager, and you then need to assign them to your agency employees. Something that also catches people out is that you, as a owner of the business manager, you still need to assign assets to yourself. So quick example, you're an agency, you work on ads. So you go and say to your brand, the business you're working with, please go and give us access to your ad account. They give you access to your ad account, and then you as a user can't see it. And the reason why is it just sits there in your business manager, in your agency business manager, and you need to find that asset in the left-hand menu and then assign it to yourself to go and work on it. So as an agency owner, you're the owner of the business manager and also the employee. I hope that kind of makes sense there. Just take a message. If you've been shared an asset and you can't find it, just make sure that you've actually assigned it to yourself within your business manager wrapper there. And then this third way, saying instead of requesting access, we can ask the brand or business to share the assets to it. So they're initiating that share. And the way to do that is basically, usually I would, in the old days, meet in person, but these days on a screen share, say, right, get them to load up their business manager, share their screen and talk them through it, because quite understandably, it's a little bit complex. The UI isn't that user friendly. So get them to share their screen and say, right, go to business.facebook.com, go into these 9 dots, go and add me as a partner, talk you through it. And the reason why I say doing this, even though it's more work for the brand or business you're working with, is it's just more reliable. It seems that when we do the first 2 methods and send a request, those requests just seem to disappear into the ether sometimes. So you could try that easier method first, but if the requests don't appear, then jump on a call, get them to then share the assets with you by giving a partner assets. And you'll see here, it'll just say, right, okay, what's the partner business ID? If you want to find your business manager ID, by the way, that's usually in the business manager settings, but also when you're logged into Facebook Business Manager, if you go into the browser bar, your URL there, you'll get be like business.facebook.com/something. And then at the end, you'll get your business manager ID in that string. So you can easily just copy and paste that ID, but otherwise you can look at it in your business manager settings there. And then once they decide that they're going to allocate you as a partner, then just as before, they can share assets. So you go this 3-step process, left-hand menu, what do you want to share with the agency? Like in this case, we've got a Facebook page. I find the Facebook page I want, and then I decide what level of access I'm going to give them there. So I hope that makes more sense. If you're not quite sure about that, just dive into the settings section of Business Manager, have a play with those. I think once you get going, it's going to make more sense there. But definitely, as an agency, get everything set up right, take the time with the client, and then you're going to be set to have this sustainable long-term agency growth. So we've covered quite a lot there, and we're very, very nearly there now. That's it for agencies. So if you're a brand or business and you've just been having your cup of coffee, you can focus back in now, because we're going to cover a really important topic, which is security and auditing. Not the most fun topic, but really important if you want to make sure that your business is going to succeed with Facebook ads. So again, go to the 9 dots, go to business settings, and on the left-hand menu, go into security center. And what you want to see here is 3 green icons. I'll show you in a second. At the moment, we've got some problems here. We've only got 1 green tick and a red icon, and this one is grayed out. So this is what we want to be seeing here, 3 green icons. And what are these? Two-factor authentication. This is security for anybody that logs into your business. Most hacks on Facebook are because you're just using single-factor authentication, i.e. somebody hacks your password. If they need a physical device to get a code to log on, that cuts down the problems. Generally, not much hassle. I just used two-factor authentication the first time I'm logging on from a new device, and that's really all you need. But Facebook are less likely to disable your ad accounts then, because you can prove that you haven't got random people logging into your business manager. Second, you need at least 1 backup admin. We covered earlier that this is somebody that's going to be a senior partner in the business, a business owner, or just a relative if you're a small business. The number of times where people have lost access to all their assets because they had a problem with their personal ad account is crazy. So with their personal profile account. So have backup admins, really, really essential there. And third thing is verify your business. Not all businesses have this available, but if the option's there, verify. Get that green shield there. Reason for this is it proves to Facebook you're a legitimate business. You know, a lot of ad account disablements are because Facebook thinks that either random people are logging in, that they've hacked your account, or your business is just some spammy business there. So if you do those 3 steps, it's going to secure your business, stop anybody fraudulently, spending ad spend on your credit card through your ad account, and as well as protecting your assets, they're just a lot less likely to get disabled because you're just ticking all the right boxes for Facebook there. So once you've gone into Security Center and you've got your green badges there, long term, we want to be thinking about auditing our business manager. As we saw, it's quite complex. There's lots of things there. So I recommend that you have a business manager champion to look after your business manager. This just means somebody that knows what they're doing day to day in Business Manager. And ideally what they would do is a monthly review. It takes 5 minutes, but they just look, okay, have any employees left? Have we got any old agencies that are still accessing our account? Are we sharing audiences and pixels and other assets with third parties? I would say that when I take on a new client, first thing I do is audit their business manager. More often than not, I find that they've got ex-employees in there that could still have access to spending on their credit card for ads there, or they have ex-agency partners which are probably harvesting some of that data and insights, or could be tweaking things in your ad account to try and get you back as an agency client. So it's really worthwhile just once a month, make a little calendar note or something like that as an action point. So your business manager champion just goes in and does that quick audit there. Great, we're nearly there. Thank you for sticking with me. We're on the final section now. This is a quick one. This is just tying up loose ends, the rapid fire round. So I want to make you aware that in Adespresso, if you want to avoid working with Business Manager too much, we've got an onboarding hub. This is really great for agencies. It makes it very, very user-friendly alternative to go and get access to Facebook pages and ad accounts. So check that out if you're an Adespresso customer, or if you're not, I'm going to give you a free demo at the end of this webinar. So you can just go through the steps there, and you can just say, right, I need to connect this ad account, connect these pages, and it avoids your businesses and brands that you're working with having all that hassle of Business Manager there. So that's something I highly recommend. Second little tip is give all your assets a descriptive name and not just default pixel and default ad account. If you're working with multiple clients, then sometimes you end up with 5 pixels called default pixels. It gets very confusing. Even just as a small business, if you've got several ad accounts and pixels and things over time, these assets kind of mount up. It's much better if they're descriptive. Also, Facebook for like ad accounts will just try and give them a random number, like a 10-digit number. Very difficult to know what it's for. If you can say very descriptive, like this is my US spending ad account and this is my one for Europe, that's going to make a lot more sense. So set those names up at the beginning, really going to help you. It's going to make life a lot easier for any agencies you deal with. I've included this just because people ask me a lot. We get larger organizations, they like to use ad account invoicing. They don't want to have all these small transactions on a business credit card. So I thought I'd include this here, that if you want ad account invoicing, it is possible. I've worked with clients that have had 6-figure credit lines, and you get 30 days to pay from the date of invoice. But to do this, first of all, you need to be spending a minimum of $10,000 per month. For other currencies, like in UK, it's £10,000. They usually do some kind of similar translation for other currencies. So you need to be spending 10K a month for at least 3 months. Now, the good thing is this is at business manager level, not at ad accounts. If you've got several ad accounts, another good reason to put them into business manager is that you can kind of aggregate the spend between those, and Facebook could then give you a credit line. You do need a Facebook account rep as well to be allocated. Now, Facebook send their notes that they'll contact you, you can't contact them. So just bear in mind is that there's no guarantee that you can get a rep, that you need to go and unlock the credit lines. But usually if you reach out to them on live chat, then they'll probably allocate you a rep if you're spending that kind of level quite consistently. So Facebook from day one won't give you a huge credit line, but if you've got that account history and you've got everything in Business Manager, I've got quite a few clients that have got invoicing, so definitely possible. Another random point here is that business managers can be disabled, not just ad accounts. You do need to be, it needs to be quite serious. You need to be consistently going against Facebook's terms of service for them to take down your whole business manager. But yeah, don't think that if you're kind of playing at the edges of Facebook advertising, that you can just keep setting up new ad accounts. Facebook are quite wise to this, and they will catch up with you and say, right, you know, you've had 3 ad accounts, you keep getting your ads rejected, we keep banning your accounts because you're violating our terms of service, right? We're just going to stop you altogether there. So that's something to be aware of, is always be ethical in your Facebook advertising, because Facebook will catch up with you in the end and disable your business manager, which we want to avoid there. And then final point here is that ad accounts can't be deleted. So really think carefully before you're setting up loads of ad accounts. Do you really need them? If you do, then fine, set up another one. But if you don't, be careful, because once it's set up, you can't delete it. You can deactivate them. The idea of deactivating them is it stops any spend going through those in future, so it prevents any fraud. Like we say, we don't want people just randomly going to your business manager and spending on your ad accounts. So that's kind of like final step of security there. But deactivated accounts still count towards your ad account limit. The account limit is different for everybody, but starts off at only 1 or 2 accounts. It increases as you build trust over time. But for example, maybe you've got a limit of 5 ad accounts. So we don't want to, on day one, set up 3 or 4 accounts, because we're then limiting ourselves in the future. So be careful about creating too many accounts. We can't just delete them and then reset our ad account limit there. So thank you everybody for joining me today, and I want to give you some extra kind of homework if you like. If you prefer a written guide to this, we've written a blog post on this. It's up to date, although it says 2020 edition. I think we published this in December, so it's bang up to date. Just go to adespresso.com/blog and you can use the search box there, or you can see the long URL on your screen. You can go to Facebook-business-manager-guide there. So that gives you a written summary of what we covered today. And also Facebook Blueprint. The Blueprint is the free and official training from Facebook. So it's going to be high quality, it's up to date there. It's very tactical. to kind of tells you how to use the tools, sometimes not why you should be using them or how to get the most out of them. But I think it's a really good foundation. Recommend that you take this. Just go to facebookblueprint.com. If you haven't used Blueprint before, it'll just ask you to connect your personal Facebook profile. That's just so it can keep track of the courses that you've done and award you some badges. So that's a really useful guide if you want to reinforce what we've learned today there. And then I'd like to thank you for for joining in today's webinar by giving you a free 14-day trial and an exclusive discount on Adespresso. If you want to be taking your Facebook and Google advertising to next level, highly recommend using Adespresso. I used to be a client myself before I joined the Adespresso team. Just go to adespresso.com/AE-webinar for that exclusive offer just for our webinar users there. Then if you're thinking, okay, this is great, we covered a lot in today's webinar, but I need some one-to-one help with this. I need to speak to an expert about my business setup and get that guidance. More than happy to book coaching calls. So we cover coaching, one-to-one strategy, power hours, whatever you want to call them. And we also do campaign reviews. If you just want an audit of an individual campaign, if you want that external view on how your ads are performing, we offer those 10-minute tactical campaign reviews. These are for Adespresso customers. So you can go, if you've got an Adespresso account or take out that trial, you can then go into the services tab in Adespresso and you can book your tactical reviews, those campaign reviews, and the coaching hours there. And we can cover anything really on those coaching hours. It's like an AMA session, ask me anything. We can put together a Facebook marketing strategy, or you can have the same with one of our Google experts, or we can answer, very specific questions like business manager setup there. Then a heads up on our next webinar. It's not going to be quite so intense next month. Instead, we're going to be looking at how to create a Facebook ads funnel strategy to boost your ad results. The reason we've chosen this for our next webinar is you might be aware that with iOS 14 privacy changes coming up, that's going to be impacting Facebook advertising. Is that that's going to affect, in essence, some of the tracking and attribution that we can be doing on websites and some of the audiences there. So instead of just going for bottom of the funnel, going straight from the ad to the sale or the lead like we're doing at the moment, in a lot of cases, there's more incentive to build funnels, which is really what we should be doing anyway. So we're going to be covering this. I'm going to give you some real life examples. I'm going to be actually talking you through the Adespresso funnel that we use ourselves. If you're interested in that, completely free as always, to sign up at adespresso.com/webinars. And so that's it. Thank you everybody for joining me, but don't go yet because we're now going to get onto Q&A. So we've got a few minutes left. I could see literally dozens of questions, so we're not going to get to them all, unfortunately. But Toy, maybe you can pick some questions for us today, please.
All right, so thanks everyone for keeping me very busy during today's webinar. I've been trying to answer all of the questions that I can, but of course we're going to go ahead and take some now. First one's either kind of recent or about the offer Paul just mentioned. So yeah, there is going to be a link there. It's adespresso.com/AE-webinar. I also put that in chat. That's going to give you a 2-week free trial. And then if you decide to continue on and join as a customer, it's going to save you 30% off your first month. So just to answer that one. Second of all, yes, for those of you who couldn't miss the first couple of minutes or sometime in the middle, we will be sending the replay of that via email. And you can also look at that at adespresso.com/webinars or on our YouTube page, youtube.com/adespresso. All right, so some questions more towards the webinar. I got this one quite a bit, but some people say that they have Facebook Business Suite, and is that the same thing as Facebook's Business Manager?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So Facebook is transitioning from Business Manager to Business Suite. They do very similar things, and there seems to be no logic on who's got Business Suite and who's got Business Manager. But everything we've covered today, if you go into the settings section, you should see that there. I do find it very frustrating though when I'm trying to give training on like giving people screenshots. They're like, hey, I'm seeing a completely different user interface. So yes, the idea with Business Suite is it's trying to combine like all your Facebook page tools. Like I think you've got the Creative Hub for Facebook pages. That's kind of combining that with our business manager there. So yes, it's just got a few extra things than business manager, but at the core, they've got all the same thing. It's certainly anything you're doing on ad accounts, you're going to see the same thing when you go into settings there.
They like to make it difficult. Okay, so another couple of questions here about how to get more ad accounts inside of Business Manager. So there's going to be a limit for some people, but how do they get around that limit?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, build up trust with Facebook. Well, there's kind of three ways on this. So the first way is build up trust, is that Facebook on day one isn't just going to give you loads of ad accounts. So just think, okay, you know, if I was Facebook, what would I want to see? So you want to see account history, you want to see some account spend, you don't want to see too many rejected ads. So just build up that trust with Facebook. Second thing is if you really need more ad accounts, then jump onto live chat with them. I think if you just Google Facebook business support, some regions you'll see live chat, sometimes you get a form, it varies by region. But when you speak to them, although they say in their documents it's a hard limit, generally, you know, you can, if you've got that good account history, they'll give you more ad accounts. The third way of looking at it is, do you need the ad accounts? If you're working with a client, if you're an agency, then get the client to go and create the ad account in their business manager, as we covered in, I think it was section 5 or section 6, and then get them to, yeah, section 5, get them to then share it with you. So most of the times where we're getting to ad account limits, it's because the agency is trying to set up ad accounts for each brand, and that shouldn't be the case. So most of the times you don't need them, but yes, build up trust and speak to Facebook if you absolutely need more there.
So we spoke a little bit about verification and the importance of that, but Amy asked, what do you need to verify your business?
So generally what it's going to do is it's going to link to, you put in like the URL with your business and sometimes business documents. I haven't been through that verification myself because I usually leave that to clients to do, but it's going to be, they're going to be looking through all the standard stuff, like they want to prove what your business identity is. I have recently gone through personal identification with Facebook, so I can talk through that briefly. That's if you need to verify your personal account. Sometimes if you've had account disabled or if you want to run ads about political or social issues. And what they've done on there is I uploaded my passport. Sometimes if you've got a photo ID for driving license, you can do that as well. And then what they did there is they then sent a letter to my house with a code. And then once you get that code, you go into Facebook and you put in that code, and that proves your physical address. So I'm not sure whether they do that for business verification, but there's a good chance they do. But it's all kind of fairly straightforward stuff just to prove that you're a legitimate business and you're not some kind of hacker or something like that there.
All right, so this one is another one that was repeated kind of often. So it looks like we have some people who are agencies and they have unfortunately created the ad account and the assets on behalf of the client instead of having the client create them and share them. So for those people who are stuck in that sort of situation, what would you do in that scenario? How would you create new ad accounts and assets, or what would you do?
Yeah, it's a question I get added a lot, and I totally understand that. It's not always intuitive when you first use Business Manager what the right structure is, and you will end up with these situations. You can't swap assets between business managers really. There's sometimes workarounds where you can like share it with a partner, give them admin access, and then you delete yourself from the asset. So there's some sort of workarounds, but it's always very risky that you might just lose the assets altogether. And there's not like a formal transfer process from one business manager to another. So you kind of really got to carry on the way things are really. So if it's an ad account, I would be thinking, okay, maybe now's a really good time to get the client to set up an ad account and I can transition to that as soon as possible. With Facebook pages, you're kind of stuck really. So it's more about going forward, not letting it happen again to you.
All right, and then we also see a couple messages from people who have had their business manager account restricted, even though they're advertising ethically. So what would someone do if they've had their business manager restricted from ads?
Yes, this is happening a lot, and just understand that it's happening to a lot of legitimate, long-standing advertisers that are running very kind of vanilla ads. Um, the Facebook have got a bot that reviews ad accounts, and it started getting very twitchy probably from about October. I think it might have been related to when US political ads ramped up. It may not have been, it could have been a coincidence, but it's happening to a lot of advertisers. And really the first thing to do is try and preempt it by going through the security section like we saw in section 6. If you can prove that only legitimate people are accessing your account, you can prove that you're a verified business, that's really going to help. But if it happens to you, what can you do? The first thing to do is don't appeal immediately, because you only get one appeal and that's final. Then you're done. So we want to give ourselves the best chance of success. So the first thing to do is go into account quality. You'll see it there again. Go to the 9 dots. There'll be a tab there for account quality. Go there, and that gives you any rejections that you're getting on your ads, any warnings, any flags, and then see what you can put right. So you're thinking, okay, they've got problems with my product catalog. Maybe I need to delete that product catalog temporarily, or I need to clean it up, or something like that. And that could be for quite random reasons. I had a email from a client yesterday. They were selling, like stuffed toy animals, and Facebook were thinking they were selling live animals. So there's little things you might not be thinking about. Just go in there and clean up anything. And then if you can, jump onto live chat with Facebook. Again, not available in all regions at all times, but just Google Facebook Business Support, at least fill in a form and say, hey, is there anything you can see? And what Facebook won't say is definitively what it will be, but they'll probably give you a very strong hint as to what it is. The reason why they can't say definitively is the account security team at Facebook works in a silo, so nobody can influence them, which is good in some ways. It means that a sales rep at Facebook can't say, hey, activate this account because it's a big spender. But also it's frustrating at times that we can't speak to the people that are rejecting our accounts. But yes, try and find out. And then again, you might be able to put something right. And only once you've got through those stages do you go and put in your appeal. And then it's a case of keeping your fingers crossed and hope it happens. If you don't get success with that, then your options are limited going forward, unfortunately, from there.
All right, so another couple of people have been asking, is it a good idea to create backup business manager or ad accounts in case the first one gets disabled for the reasons you just mentioned?
It's yes and no. The best thing to do is really go through all those security steps and be a legitimate advertiser and set everything up there. But yeah, I think the way I'd look at it is as an advertiser, if I was an agency, the key thing really is to have every brand own their own assets. And then that means, yes, if something goes down, it's a real pain, but you can then, it's only one part of your business that's gone down, not everything. Don't ever put all your eggs in one basket there. And it's probably then best if I don't go into too much about kind of ways to subvert Facebook's policies there, because we are Facebook's largest marketing partner. So I'll probably kind of leave it there for now.
Good one. And then kind of last one here, I see this one again quite frequently. So a lot of times people are working with an agency capacity and their client has had assets set up by the previous agency, but they can't get access to it. They don't have access to the page, ad account, etc. So going forward, how would you solve that? I assume just creating new assets, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's really, again, that this is another reason why the brand should always go and set up their own assets. So please, as agencies, we've got a duty to really help and educate our brands, even though they might kick back and say, hey, this is a pain, just do it for me. I've got one client that a previous agency from years back set up all their assets and then exited that business manager because they stopped working on the account. And this might happen, you work with somebody several years ago and that's long in history. But what happened in this case is because they were employees in their business manager, but they didn't have admin, they couldn't change anything. And to actually get full access again to their business manager, they did get there, but it took 9 months. And what they had to do is go to Facebook and say, look, this is our business, we own everything. And Facebook said, right, you need to go to a lawyer. You need to basically get, ID verification. not just uploading it. We need you to get a public notary to go and say, this is your business, this is you. And it just took so long to do and is very expensive. So again, this is why we're running this webinar, is set everything up from the start. Your options are really limited going forward. It's not like when you own your website, you've got backups and you own the admins, and if something goes wrong, you can roll it back. In this case, yeah, if you set the ad account up in the wrong business manager, you're kind of stuck forevermore. So really think about that structure before you set all those assets up going forward there.
Okay, great. And Mary asked kind of a similar question. Would you recommend that a client who doesn't have access to even their Facebook page just remake a new one and unfortunately lose all their likes?
Yeah, kind of weigh it up there. I mean, it depends how many page likes they've got there. But yes, I mean, we've really got to be thinking going forward is that when you set up as a new business on Facebook, you just do things very quickly. You don't pay much attention. But we've got advertisers now that have been advertising on Facebook with quite large ad spends for a good 5 years. Chances are that Facebook isn't going to go anywhere, and you might be advertising on Facebook for the next 5, 10, who knows how many years there. So yes, having that good foundation is really, really going to help, especially as we saw in some of the examples that your business might grow. You're going to add more employees. You might be working with a couple of extra agencies. These tools are getting a lot more sophisticated and complex. It's getting more like, I think when I started advertising on Facebook, it was more like riding a bike. Now it's like piloting a spaceship. There's just so many more controls to it. So I would really like to have a good foundation going forward. Obviously, if you've got like 100,000 page likes, that might be different. But if you've just got a few, then maybe start afresh if you can. Cool. I think that's all the time we've got today. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. It's really appreciated. So we'll get that replay to you as soon as possible. And I hope you really found that useful today. Any further questions, reach out to me, paul@adespresso.com, and I'll be happy to help. Thank you very much.